Hi everyone, welcome to today's lesson. We will be going over a poem by Robert Frost. The poem is called The Road Not Taken. This is one of his more famous poems, so you may have heard of it, you may not have, it's totally okay. So today's agenda, so what will we be doing today? We will first start with a survey. This will be a vocabulary survey. We will then move on to a poem reading. We're going to do an independent reading where you read the poem to yourself, and then we're going to have a poem read aloud. We will then move on to reflection writing assignments. Some of these assignments will be completed collaboratively with your peers, and some of the assignments will be completed independently. We will then move on to a discussion. This discussion will be a text-based fishbowl, and if you don't know what that is, we're going to be going over that, so don't worry. So let's start with the survey. The survey is going to be a prior knowledge and personal association survey. So this survey should be shared with you, the document. If you can't access it, there's a link below in, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it's this white link on the bottom, but you should be able to access it. So please make a copy of this. I'm going to give you a second to make a copy so you have your own document to write on. So what is this survey? So this is a prior knowledge and personal association survey. So for each word, and I'm going to give you the words, they're the words on the screen, you're going to place an X in the column that best describes your knowledge of the word. I don't expect you to know what these words are. If you do, that's great. If you don't, just be honest. This is a credit complete assignment. You're not going to be graded on your knowledge of the words. I'd rather you be honest. That'll much better. It's okay not to know them. So everyone has a copy. Give me a thumbs up if you've made a copy. Awesome. So these are the words we're going to be putting in the left-hand column. So on your document, you should see where it says vocabulary word. We're going to be putting these words in. So the words are diverged, undergrowth, trodden, doubted, hints, and where. So write those words on the left, in the left-hand column. And then the rest of the assignment you're going to be completing independently. And like I said before, it's okay to say that you've never seen or heard the word before. If you've seen or heard it, but you don't know what it means, that's also a column you can mark. And if you know the word, you could define it, you could explain it to someone else, and you can use it in a sentence. Excellent, put your X there. And then on the very right-hand side, it says, from what I know or think, this word is P positive, N negative, any neutral. So that's the connotation with the word. So you think this is a positive word, this is a good word, it means something nice, or this is a negative word, it means something bad, not the best, or neutral, kind of in between. So I'm going to give you a second to fill out your document. When you filled out your document, just turn your cameras back on. You could turn your cameras off while you're working on this. And let me know in the chat if you have any questions. Okay. So breaking the fourth wall. This is when students would complete steps 2 and 3 on the agenda. So these steps would allow students the time to read the poem. They would do a video read aloud. They would listen to the poem. They would be able to reflect on the poem individually and collaboratively. And so this is all preparation for the 4th step, which is the second strategy that I'm going to be going over. These steps are critical before moving on to the next teaching strategy I'm going to highlight, because steps 2 and 3 are like where the students would be able to prepare for the discussion. So in the steps 2 and 3, it's like they read the poem, they get to reflect on it before they're asked to discuss their interpretation of the poem. So it gives them more opportunity to prepare. But I'm going to skip that because that doesn't have anything to do with the 2 strategies that I'm going to highlight. And if I can hear it. Okay, so moving on, we are going to be doing the 4th step of our agenda today, and this is the discussion. So this discussion will be a text-based fishbowl discussion. So show of thumbs, how many of us have participated in a fishbowl discussion in a previous course? I know I never did in high school, but if you have, that's great. If you haven't, totally fine. It's very similar to a Socratic seminar, whole class discussion. The only difference is the physical layout of the room. So I'm going to go over those right now with you. So what is a fishbowl discussion? So it's the layout of the classroom. So we're going to move our chairs, and it's going to be in a circle, as you can see in the picture, and there's an inner and an outer circle. So the responsibilities and roles of the circles. So if you're in the outer circle, you're going to listen to your classmates discussing, and you're going to take notes. So they're the observers. If you're on the inner circle, then you're going to be the ones participating in the discussion. So the inner circle are the students that you guys are going to be talking. You're going to be discussing the text-based, which is The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. So show of hands, does that make sense? Yes, makes sense. No. If you have questions, let me know. Raise your hand, unmute, put the questions in the chat. So we're going to move. So we're in an outside circle, and then there'll be seats for students to participate in the inner circle. So how to take notes. You are gonna have access to a tracking sheet and a peer evaluation. So the peer evaluation will come into play later on, so don't worry about that. I just wanted to go over the 2 documents you should have. So make sure you have those. You can make a copy of them, and then you're good as long as you have them. Thumbs up. Perfect. So text-dependent questions. What are text-dependent questions? So these questions require the person you're asking to use the text to respond. So independently, we're going to write, each of us, at least 4 text-based questions based on the poem, The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. So we're going to write these questions on the back of your tracking sheet. So you have the tracking sheet, you have the peer evaluation. Now on the back of it, we're going to write the 4 text-based questions. So what are some possible text-based questions? I don't want to take any. It's a pretty short poem, so I don't want to take any of yours. But just think, if you ask someone this question, they're going to have to refer to the text. So the 2 roads diverged in the woods. So you could ask something about which path, like where they would have to reference the text. I'm going to give you a moment to complete this activity. And again, turn your cameras off while you're working on this. And when you're done, you can turn your camera back on so I know when to move on. And as always, if you have any questions, just send them in the chat, unmute. So class expectations. How do we expect our classmates and ourselves to behave during this discussion? So I think it's very important right now to establish some ground rules on how we are going to be speaking to each other. If we're going to, whatever the guidelines you guys want, it's up to you. It's your class that's going to be participating. So we're going to make these expectations together. So I'll start. So unmute yourself, and when you have a guideline you'd like us to follow, we can have a brief discussion on it, and then I'll include it on this slide, and I'll make a note, and then we'll have this. So an example of a class expectation is that we don't talk over one another. So if someone's talking, we wait until they're finished, and then we can respond. So if you guys have any expectations, please let me know, and I'll add them to the slide. So the fishbowl discussion, before we begin. So as a reminder, the outside circle are going to be taking notes and listening to their peers on the inside circle. So while you're on the outside circle, have your tracking sheet in front of you, and you should be taking notes. You should be actively taking notes while your classmates are participating in the discussion. So you have a partner that you've been paired up with throughout this lesson. That's who you're going to be peer evaluating. So make sure to listen to when they talk, listen to what they contribute, make note of what they say, how they say it. So that'll be important for the peer review. So on the tracking sheet, there's some look out fors if you need help, like thinking like what should I be looking for, and there's a place where under the tracking notes you can make your notes. So does anyone have any questions, or are we good to start the discussion? So now that we've had our discussion, amazing job everyone, we are going to be filling out the peer evaluation. So your tracking sheet will be a great resource for you to make notes for the peer evaluation. So with your partner, you're going to answer these 5 questions. So did your partner answer questions with evidence? Did they refer to the text? Did they answer questions that were Did they ask questions that were grounded in the text? Did they listen actively and respectfully to other students' ideas? Did they follow our class expectations that we set together? Did they openly consider ideas that conflicted with their own ideas? And did they respond to others with appropriate questions? So you're going to rank your peer, so your partner, and you're going to rank them with a 1 that you strongly disagree that they did these. You disagree, you're neutral, you agree, and you strongly agree. They just knocked it out of the park. And then at the bottom, there's a place for you to make notes and comments. So you can leave any notes and comments that you wanted to. It could be, I ask you to be more positive than negative. It is extremely helpful to have constructive criticism, but there's a fine line between constructive and just criticism. So make sure you're being kind and helpful. So end on a positive. So in the notes and comments, leave one positive comment. And that's our lesson for today. As soon as you're done with the peer evaluation, make sure you submit it, make sure you have your name on it and your partner's name. So thank you guys all for such a great lesson. Yeah, thank you. Oh, how do I